God, you can tell I'm really brain damaged today.
What you do last night?
You know, the sad part is nothing but sleep because I was trying to catch up on stuff because I'm going to have an insane weekend this weekend. Sleep when I'm dead, huh? Sleep when you're dead. All right. So you may want to go ahead and just download it then off the website. So it comes from Oxid, oxid.it. All right. So Cain and Able, download the NTXP version. To see what we got. And let's hope that this thing actually goes. So when you get it, go into CA Setup. And then just kind of go through the install like you would anything else. It's not a real big issue. Remember, it's loading when PCAP. And it goes installation complete. We want to reinstall the driver. And once you got it, you should be like good to go.
Now, if our Windows firewall is turned on, something might not work. Should we turn off our firewall?
No, turn it on. All right, so keep it on. That's not going to stop you at all. All right, so has everybody downloaded it and gone through your general install? I mean, again, this is a really easy thing to do. So there's a lot of stuff that goes along with this, all right? If you have a personal laptop plugged into the network today, if you have it actually wired into the network, then today is a bad day for your laptop. All right? Today is a very bad day for your laptop. An old one you don't mind sacrificing to the class. All right. So we're going to kind of run through this a little bit, right? So you guys know what each one of these screens actually do. The goal and design around Cain and Able was to pull passwords out of systems. All right? So if you tell it to pull stuff out of your system, right? You can tell it to dump stuff from a registry, however, from the local system. We'll just do local system because that's going to be easy. So what it does is it goes through and it reads all the stuff that's in the local security authority file, right? And gives you a pretty good idea of what you need to start doing when it comes to the password. So default passwords and the NLKM and all the rest of it, right? If you have to, if you pull a password off the internet, so if someone was actually logging into Gmail or something else, you can actually crack the passwords from here, right? And it goes through all sorts of different ways of cracking passwords as it kind of goes through, right? You can actually sniff traffic as it goes. You can actually get a network map of what's going on, all of its decoders and how it works, dial-up, Windows Mail, Internet Explorer. You can trace route between point A and point B so you can get a better picture of what's along the way. You can get into routers, and you can read the simple network management, read-write protocol and communities that all belong here. If you have a wireless NIC, you can actually bring this thing up and start taking a look at what's going on with wireless, right? So don't try this at home. If you find a database, you can actually go in and start querying that database for data. So this thing does an awful lot of really cool stuff. Cracks passwords, gives you a network map, lets you look at who's doing what their name is. We'll crack passwords. We'll trace route from point A to point B. We'll start working on your routing systems, so all your hubs, all your routers, all your firewalls. It will crack wireless passwords, and if you find a database, you can actually start asking and querying that database directly. All right? So you have to first tell it what device you want to use. So this little kind of looking funny NIC cardy thing, right? You can say start sniffer on startup, and that's cool. If you are on a network and you don't use promiscuous mode, then it's going to go out and actively scan. If it actively scans, you're going to trigger an intrusion detection system, and you're going to have to hold on to that thought until we're done. All right? So if you don't use the promiscuous mode, then you're actively scanning. If you use promiscuous mode, it has to see what's crossing the wire first. If you are on a switched network, all you'll see are the broadcasts and yourself. All right, and because this classroom is switched, all you're really going to see is this classroom and yourself. If you don't use promiscuous mode, it will go out and actively query everything that's around there so you can see a little bit more. So this is one way of getting around that switched network issue. All right, but because I'm on a different network than you guys are, I'm going to stay in promiscuous mode. I would recommend that you guys click on this one. All right? And you can click on Apply. And you can click on Start. And as things happen, it will kind of show you what's going on. All right? So you have to press that little button to keep it so that it will go down. And it will kind of go through and take a look at what's going on with the network. If you go into Sniffer, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to tell you all the hosts, right, that you can see. Then APR is also ARP, right? If you click on APR and you start doing ARP poisoning, you're going to route everything on the network through your computer, right? And if I have all 24 of you guys all trying to route the network through your computer, the network in this room will crash. And nor are your computers in this classroom big enough to handle all the traffic you guys are going to generate. So, but you can poison ARP so you can pull everything down. You can also inject a certificate. You can copy certificates. You can do it to DNS. You can do it for SSH. You can do it for HTTPS and all these other protocols. You can do it for a specific protocol if you want to do it that way, right? Or you can do it all. Routing, this will tell you who all your routers are. So you can see what all your entry, RIP, you can see who your edge routers are. You can see the internal core to the network. You can also start pulling passwords straight out, right? So you can pull passwords from MySQL, radius keys, email, telnet, some virtual network systems, HTTP, email, lightweight directory access protocol. So if you're running this on a corporate network and you're using LDAP, then I'm going to pull all your Active Directory stuff. Okay, and then if you're really, really good, you can actually record people's voice over internet, phone, entire conversations. If you record someone's VoIP conversation, that's illegal interception of telecommunications. It's a wiretap, right? So that's a couple of years in jail and a really huge fine. So I want you to be really aware of that. If you're doing this at home, right, that you can really cross the lines with these tools. So we're starting to get into the big, more powerful, more interesting tools that they've got cooking. All right? You can actually do type 7 password decoders. Most of the stuff we've got here in the classroom is type 7. So if you have the encrypted password, it will try to crack that password for you. If it doesn't recognize it, it doesn't recognize it.
How do you get an encrypted password? So let's say I want to pull password.
If someone logs in and you see the password, it's probably going to be an encrypted password.
So it'll be only when someone's logging in.
Yep. Yep. You can also do for the VPN client.
So it's not like stored password is stored in hash somewhere that you can go.
The password is stored in hash in the Cisco configuration file, and I'll show you how to pull those a little bit later on. All right. Now, some people use the secure token, right? So you can actually pull up and actually break two-factor authentication with this tool. So if you have a little token that gives you a little number sequence that you're supposed to do, this will actually break that secure ID token for you. So don't think that two-factor authentication is truly safe, because it's not. All right? Remote desktop password decoders. So if you see someone come up on a remote desktop, you can actually drop them into a file name, give them the username, which will be in clear, the domain, which will be in clear, and then the encrypted password, and it will tell you the decrypted password. syskey, if you have a system key that has a boot hex key, right, then this is where you're actually going to be able to pull it. So this is the boot key for this particular computer. So this is the main sequence key to get this thing authenticated as a Windows 7 box using this system, using this BIOS, using this hardware. With this boot key, you can do an awful lot of really cool stuff, like completely fake out the network thinking that this is my computer when it's really not. So this is a really kind of interesting kind of tool to go ahead and play around with. If you want to exit, you can exit. If you want to configure specific things, right, the sniffer, which is up and running. Do not do ARP poisoning yet. Challenge spoofing. So if you need to do a network NTLM spoof challenge, you can collect certificates for people's proxy settings. You can actually spoof certificates. And one of the things that you can do when you're working online, and if you're curious as to whether you're being intercepted by the FBI, the CIA, or someone else, they will spoof your certificate for you, right? So you think you're going to Gmail, when really what you're doing is you're negotiating that HTTPS session with an FBI or CIA or NSA server, right? And then it's going straight from the NSA server to your Gmail account, right? So you're basically giving everything that has to do with Gmail to the NSA, CIA, FBI, foreign intelligence. This is a real common thing to have happen, right? So you can actually do that same thing here.
And that would show you whether or not where your actual traffic is going.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but you can also then intercept people's HTTPS certificates, so you can be the one sitting in Starbucks doing this. Not advised. But just so you are aware that Starbucks is not the coolest place to be right now. All right? You can filter on the kind of ports you want, so if you get too much data, you can actually start telling it not to collect certain things. You can tell it what HTTP fields to focus on. So login forms, different language, user login, security login username. If it sees this in the form, it's going to go ahead and grab that information regardless of how you feel about it. And we'll do the same thing for user password fields. If something's changed and you want to focus on a specific system, right, you can actually put new data into here as much as you want. If you trace route, right, you can resolve the host names and then retrieve the who as information from the databases, so you know who's who. So again, tons of cool stuff that you can do. And that's essentially how this bad boy works. All right? So there's all sorts of different ways. It's keyboard configured. It's all the rest of it. You can basically do anything you want to do with this. One of the things that I've seen people do, especially on the hacking side, is what they'll do is they'll strip this down to nothing, right? So that all they're doing is running the core. And then we're pretty much so good from there. So you can already see we're starting to collect our first gateway. All right? We can actually go through and see if it's actually a router, if that gateway is a router or a system. And it's not. If we double-click on Windows Network, right, if you double-click on that little name, Windows Network, Microsoft Windows Network, it will actually start bringing things together for you. It will do a quick query, right? So if you want to see all the computers on the network that I'm on right now, we can click on all computers. So what it did is it ripped that out of my routing table. Right, so now I know whose computer's who. And this is Amelia Phillips' computer. Right? This is Serena's, this is Wheeler's. Because of the way that most companies label their computers, it's either a name or a department or something else. So you can know that you're hitting on the right department. Right? Passport computers, whatever we can get our hands on. We can see if there's any Apple file servers out there. So if someone's actually using Apple as a file server, and we'll go through and query that. Takes a minute. All right, so it can enumerate any Apple computers on the network. If you want to see what kind of browsers that are in, so these are all potential browsers in the system. And what they mean by browser is the networking portion of it. So they're able to browse the network. We can see if there's any dial-in servers. We can see where our domain controllers are.
So if you do user enumeration, is that just pulling all the users from the system?
Yes. So that's why you want to do this for the Active Directory.
So like if we find our Active Directory, that's up online from 263.
Yep. So we've got some, Portia Plant. She quit. Rev Ender King, and somebody named Snowball. Right? So if we go and we enumerate, start user enumeration, yes. So here we go. So we have image admin is the administrator for the local, Cogena instructional computing, and then updatus user is just a regular user. Right, but we've got their SIDs now, so we know where they reside in the account. We know the administrator and the guest are turned off. If we can actually go in and start reading their registry, we can see how they've actually got their current user that's set up. We can actually go in and start taking a look at their registry. We cannot change the registry from here, but if you know what the registry is set for, you can actually go in and then start poking at it to reset the registry. But if you know what's in here, if you know what's in the registry, because the registry tells you how that computer is configured, you can go in and start figuring out where the holes are.
So essentially more information about it.
Yes. So if it won't connect, if you couldn't connect to remote registry, then that means their security is pretty good. All right? That means they've cut off some things. If you can go in and actually see what services they're running. Give it a minute. So it actually goes through, talks to the computer, and says, here's what you're doing. So basically, you're running around here almost as an administrator superpower kind of thing. All right. So these are all the services they're running. So this is the software they're running. So their update service is stopped, is set to manual. Altiris, deployment agent, so they're running Altiris. So if we go to the exploit DB and see what kind of things are available for the Altiris client, we now have something we can poke at and see if we can get it to overwrite. Or put our own software on it through that. Bonjour service is the syncing your iTunes library service, right? So you can actually go in and Bonjour's got some issues if they haven't updated it lately, right? So they're also running some optimization routines, some decom launch, which means I can actually do stuff along the way. Decom will allow me to run programs remotely against it, and that's running, and that's set to auto. So there's another way to go in and take a look at it. They're running their fax services stopped. You can kind of tell I'm looking for specific things. So yeah, they do. They have their iPod service running. So yeah, Apple software's got some really cool holes in it. They're doing some Mozilla, so they're using Firefox. They're using MS SQL Express, right? And then they've got MS SQL tied to the Active Directory as a helper agent. So actually, they've got some peer P2P services going, right? Let's see what else they got. Remote access, it's disabled. There's a way you can turn that on and start it from command line. So if I can get in the command line, I can just turn on the remote access service and be good to go.
So you have to access their command line?
Yeah. You have to access their command line to turn on services. I'll show you. I will show you. All right. You can see if they've got any open shares that you can actually get to, right? So currently we're on their IPCS share. This is me. All right. But they're sharing out their color printer. Anybody need anything printed in color? All right. So, yeah. So, yeah, basically. And that's how junk faxes work. That's exactly how junk faxes work. So if you can get into their default share, right, by just double-clicking on it, if it doesn't come up, then that means it's not going to work, right? But since these are databases, right, you can kind of go through and see who all what. IT admin is their guy, so that's your admin person. And this one's pretty quiet, so this one's actually configured fairly decently, right? But if you just go in and you start pulling up certain things, right? All right, so Amelia's got her computer set up good, so I can't enumerate groups. Can't connect to remote, can't open Service Manager, can't open shares, and I can't enumerate users. So if you get these errors, right, then this is a good thing. This means that her system is set securely, right? So you really just want to try to find stuff that's not set securely so you can do horrible things to it.
And so if
right.
you're doing recon, you'd be looking for names of people who aren't in the IT. People who are like in HR.
Now, the cool part is that everybody that's in a work group.
Now, are work groups easier
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but that means that they're not tied to the domain in any way, shape, or form. They're kind of standalone. So that means that they may present a better target for not getting caught. Because I don't want to get caught, okay? I really don't want to get caught. So I'm recording this, right?
This tool is specifically used if you are currently plugged into the network.
Yes. But again, the idea is just to go through and see, okay, so now we're connected as anonymous, all right, to Pharos, whatever Pharos kiosk is. All right, so I can't do that. Couldn't connect to remote registry. Can't get service control. Can't see their shares. And I can't get to their users. And that's okay. All right, so Pharos is set up pretty securely. But I shouldn't be able to connect remote as anonymous. Yeah. So we've got some pretty well, decently configured servers here. All right, as long as I can't do specific things, then that's a good thing.
Is there ways around each of them?
Oh, yeah.
I bet you'll show us.
I will show you. But I just want to kind of give you guys a run-through of this whole thing so you can kind of see we've got Bob. I like people who just name their computers Bob. I don't know what it is about Bob.
Do you have Magneto?
Griswold? Anno Domini? Mount Doom? All right. Squee. Someone named their computer Squee. All right. So again, but the idea is the more that you can see. So Squee is a Mac OS X server. So Apple, is there a way to crack into Apple so we can do horrible things with that? We've got people that are running Samba. So go out to ExploitDB and see if there's a vulnerability in Samba 332 or 3032 that we can actually latch onto and use, because that will tell me that there's an open file share, right? So Bob didn't give it to me. Drumknot. We can see if Drumknot's open. Yep. So network path was not found. So again, it's just poke around and see what you can find. But this gives you a really nice user interface, and it tells you everything that you can see that you were seeing with Wireshark. It just gives you a little bit more kind of fun stuff that has to do with how it lays out the network, because the network is laid out exactly like you'd see on your Windows Explorer, right? So it's a much more friendly interface for you guys to actually go play around with than, say, Wireshark. All right. So, make sense? So we're not seeing anything yet, but we just kind of got to give it time to run. So, go play. Kind of makes sense, though, on this one? All right. Your question, sir.
You were talking about that it's able to crack passwords and stuff like that. And did you say that if somebody was logging into like their Gmail account, they could catch that?
Yes.
Even though your Gmail runs on HTTPS?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Because there's a specific filter in here for cracking HTTPS software, passwords. Actually, where was it? Decoder. So it'll actually decode all the stuff that you can get. But yeah, no, there's no worries on that one. All right, any other questions? You guys good? All right, so you may need to download this instead of using the one that the school gave us, right? Because there's going to be kind of a hitch on this one. It's going to say, I don't think you downloaded the right version. But if you have your personal laptop plugged into the wire right now, unplug it, because someone's going to take their way right into your personal laptop today. All right? No, you cannot wish for someone to plug their personal laptop in. All right. So make sure you got it. Make sure you got it. Make sure it's up and running. Make sure you're good to go. Make sure you're downloading Cain and Able from the Oxid IT site. And the site's going to put malware on your box. So only download from the authorized site. Only download from here. Only download from oxid.it. All right, because anything else is going to put on your computer you don't want. All right, so is everybody good? Any other questions? All right, go play.